All right, week 4, here we come. Welcome, everybody. My name is Doc Klugman, and this is Uncut Nonsense, the show where, let's be honest, 10 out of 6, or 10-6 is not too bad. It's above average, so shut up. Of course, we are diving into week 4 predictions for this week for the NFL season. And it's been a very interesting week 3, and I hope better things come for me when it comes to week 4. Diving into week 4, we ended up having a 10-6 record. Of course, Buffalo ended up handling business when it came to Thursday Night Football. Indianapolis again ended up winning, and they go to 3-0. The Patriots disappointed me, as well as the Atlanta Falcons. And how could you let Carolina Panthers do all that to you? I honestly don't understand. But the big problem is the Green Bay Packers. Of course, losing to the Cleveland Browns and as well as the Dallas Cowboys, just making me look like a fool. And that's the problem that we dive into this coming week. But the other good wins that I did have, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking care of business over the New York Jets. Washington ends up getting the win. Philadelphia with a beautiful comeback ends up beating the Rams 33-26. Jacksonville holds on strong against Houston and giving them the 0-3 record. Seattle holds strong against the Saints, giving the Saints the 0-3 record. And the big Monday Night Football game, the Detroit Lions taking care of business against the Baltimore Ravens. There's questions when it comes to Baltimore, and we're going to dive into that coming up. But of course, we start with the Thursday Night Football game. The Seattle Seahawks taking on the Arizona Cardinals. A good NFC West matchup right here. Seattle, they got the win last week. They're going to be on the road on this one, and they're going to face off against the Arizona Cardinals. And this is going to be a really interesting matchup here because you got two teams, in my opinion, that's honestly really good. And I really do like what they have going for them when it comes to the start of this coming season. Obviously, the Arizona Cardinals, they do take the loss against their division rival, the San Francisco 49ers. They lose a close one in that case. They couldn't get the offense going as well as they obviously wanted to. Rushing yards was still over 100 yards. Passing was not coming together when it comes to Kyler Murray. And that's the big issue that I do see is that when it comes to an NFL passing league, the Arizona Cardinals are not able to get it done. And that is the problem that really plagues this team. They're a good rushing team. However, when it comes to the passing game, I do worry when it comes to this current team. They're going to be at home when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks in this case. Seattle did a pretty good job taking care of business against the New Orleans Saints. However, we do know the Saints are a dumpster fire when it comes to that particular team. Sam Darnold did not have an overall impressive game, but he did pass for over 200 yards. However, 14 for 18, two touchdowns added on to it, but they did enough to get the win, and that's really what matters when it comes to this case. They had obviously two sacks in the game. They had over 300 yards in total offense, and that's enough to get them to win. And in this particular matchup, I'm going to give the win over to the Seattle Seahawks. I just think that they might be the better team in this situation. I think they have the better opportunity to do as long as they're able to stay decent throughout this contest. I do have faith in them to be able to end up getting the win. Give me Seattle in this Thursday night matchup. After that, you have the game early morning on Sunday. Minnesota Vikings taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This one's going to be played in Dublin, Ireland. And of course, the NFL branching out to all these different, out of North America sort of, cities and states and everything like that. We saw week one being played in Brazil. You have many games that are played in London. They used to play many games in Mexico City, and then you have a game usually in Munich, Germany, and this one's going to be played in Dublin, Ireland. And Minnesota Vikings versus the Steelers. Steelers had a good win, as well as the Minnesota Vikings last week. Both teams ended up taking care of business. Vikings had a very impressive offensive showing from Carson Wentz, and he ended up getting the win against a very beat up, Cincinnati Bengals defense that we all know is terrible. Steelers. Here's the situation with the Steelers. The Steelers had a very horrible performance that ended up resulting in a win. Steelers ended up forcing not one, not two, not three. I want to say even not four, but it did stop at four fumbles when it came to against their matchup against the New England Patriots. Four fumbles, and on top of that, they also had an interception. So five turnovers. In fact, let's add it six for a turnover on downs from the New England Patriots. And they only made out with a 7-point win. Pathetic. Pathetic. And that just shows how horrible the offense has become under Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I already knew that going into this year, he was going to have a rough time. I already knew that he was going to end up struggling because this man is over 40 years old. He's done taking hits. He's not the same Aaron Rodgers that he was in 2010 when he won the Super Bowl. And overall, when you look at this status that he has, it's been going on since the end of his time in Green Bay, his whole time in New York with the Jets, and now it leaks into Pittsburgh. I don't know how I feel about this one. Pittsburgh is technically the home team. I don't give them home team advantage, obviously, because they're playing in a neutral field in Dublin. And honestly, it's looking pretty good for the Minnesota Vikings. They played very impressive under Carson Wentz last week. They ended up taking care of business against the Cincinnati Bengals, and overall, I'm very impressed with what I saw with that team, both offensively and defensively. Carson Wentz didn't do a huge, major amount, but the big game was the rushing game. Jordan Mason, 116 yards and 16 carries. He averaged over 7 yards per carry, plus two touchdowns on top of that. That is a very good performance out of this Minnesota team. Give me Minnesota in the win in Dublin, and in that case, Minnesota going to have a beer on me. After that, you have the New Orleans Saints taking on the Buffalo Bills. Bills are going to be at home against this one. And, I bit myself in the ass last week by skipping ahead with the Green Bay Packers and the Cleveland Browns. And I'm upset by that one. I really did. However, I'm gonna go against my gut again and be like, yeah, this game is over right away. Buffalo's at home. I trust Josh Allen. I trust everything when it comes to the whole Buffalo Bills team. Saints have not proven to do anything effective. I'm gonna make this real quick for you guys. Give me Buffalo in this game. After that, Tennessee Titans on the road taking on the Houston Texans. Texans and the Titans both 0-3. One of them is not much of a shocker in regards to Tennessee. One of them is a shocker in regards to Houston. And honestly, it seems like an obvious pick. However, there has been some struggles in Houston. There really has. And I think the lack of offense that you're seeing in regards to the receiving core is really making a difference when it comes to the Houston Texans. I think it's something that is lingering into week after week after week. They lost their last game 17-10 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars improved to 2-1. We'll talk about them later on. And just the lack of offense from CJ Stroud as well as the whole entire Houston Texans offense is really starting to show. CJ Stroud, remember, he was somebody who came into the league in his rookie year and did not have an interception until week 6 or 7 or whatever it was. He threw another 2 picks today, last week, excuse me. And it was just an overall mess of a performance from that team. And I think we're starting to see that maybe this team is a little more transparent than what we're used to. And I hate to say it because this is a team that I do have a lot of faith in. I picked against them when they played against Jacksonville. I was right about that one. I'm gonna give the Texans the win. They're at home. I think they're going to take care of business against the Titans. The Titans just have developed, but not enough to be able to get them wins. Cam Ward has performed pretty decently. However, I'm not ready to get the Titans their first win. Give me Houston in this case. After that, Cleveland Browns versus the Detroit Lions. And, the Detroit Lions are a team that had proven themselves after week one. They got absolutely demolished by the Green Bay Packers. Then they ended up dropping over 50 against the Chicago Bears. And then they took care of business handling a very good Baltimore Ravens team. And the Detroit Lions are back to their regular standard. The regular standard, of course, being that they're a high functioning offense. Defense holds them through, and they're able to get wins just by being this incredible juggernaut of a team. And then you face against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, they picked up their first win last week. They ended up doing very well against the Green Bay Packers in a big slugfest defensively that ended up winning the game 13-10. I don't know if I can trust the Cleveland Browns in this case. Cleveland Browns, if their defense does not fail them, their offense, pulls through, or vice versa. In that case, in the last game against the Green Bay Packers, their defense was the name of the game, even though the offense of the Joe Flacco could not do anything. I think that the Lions will easily have a better time when it comes to playing with them. The game's also in Detroit. Detroit's a difficult place to be with. Give me the Lions in this case. After that, you have the Los Angeles Chargers taking on my New York Giants. And the Giants, well, I picked them last week and it immediately backfired on me. And I hate it. Russell Wilson, he teased us by having a good game against the Cowboys in week 2, but then we found out the Cowboys have a horrible defense, and then Russell Wilson was absolutely horrendous, and he basically gave the Chiefs the win in the last game on Sunday Night Football. It was very frustrating for me to watch. I watched it. I was ready. I had my pizza. I had my beer. I was ready to go, and I basically did anything but cry that night when it came to the Giants game. And they're gonna start their rookie Jackson Dart. I'm very excited about this. As a Giants fan, I'm thrilled. I'm really excited about this. However, I don't know what he's capable of. He had a very good preseason. I'm very excited for him to see what he has to do. I think the main reason of this is that obviously the Giants are at home. They're going to have the home crowd backing them up. You know at the start of this game that unless the Chargers do something different, that stadium is going to be bumping over there at MetLife Stadium. And for all good reasons. Obviously, you're excited about Jackson Dart starting the game for the quarterback for the New York Giants. And that's very, very valuable for them. However, until I see it, I can't believe it. I'll give Justin Herbert and the Chargers the good 4-0, 4-0 start, and I'll take the Chargers in this one. As a Giants fan, I hope I'm wrong. However, Herbert has just proved to be so good. He played against a very good Denver defense last week, and I can't go against him right now because he's doing very good. And the team around him, even though I don't believe in Justin Herbert as much as some other people do, I do believe in him as a good player because he is a very good quarterback. He's a good leader on the offense for the Los Angeles Chargers. However, the team around him is so much better than it has been in the past 5, 6 years. And that's what makes the difference in this case. Give me LA in this one. After that, you have Washington taking on the Seattle, excuse me, taking on the Atlanta Falcons, and Atlanta just dropped the ball. Penix played horrible. He really did not do much against a horrible defense for the Carolina Panthers last week. The Panthers ended up winning 30-0 in that last one. Penix was atrocious. He ended up having no touchdowns, two interceptions, obviously no touchdowns, and didn't score no points. Two interceptions, only 172 yards, and 18 for 36. 50% passing rating. That's not going to do it. I don't care if you are a second year quarterback, a third year quarterback. I don't give a shit because at the same time, if you are a professional athlete, that's not good enough. If they trust you to be the starter, it's not good enough. Washington last week, they didn't even have Jaden Daniels, and they still got the job done. Granted, they played a bad Las Vegas Raiders team. They still got the job done. Washington just shows that they are resourceful when it comes to playing against, different opponents, different play schemes. Even if they don't have their full-fledged roster, Washington still shows that they are able to contribute and they are able to respond on both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively, special teams. It don't matter. Washington still shows that they're able to get the job done. They're playing against a Falcons team that I think is a little bit more weaker. I'll take Washington on the road in this one. It's a little bit of an up and down matchup in this case. I'll give Washington the win though. Give me Washington. After that, you have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucks were at home last week. They played the Jets. They had a nice comeback from behind victory after the Jets had a blocked field goal return for a touchdown. Tampa Bay controlled the game the whole first three quarters. Jets wanted to make it interesting when it came to the fourth quarter. It wasn't good enough. Tampa Bay held on strong. And now you play the Philadelphia Eagles, who relied on the fourth quarter, basically, and ended up winning that game. They ended up playing a very good game against the Los Angeles Rams. They won that game 33-26. They had, 14 unanswered points in the third quarter, 12 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, and they ended up getting the job done. The Rams scored their last points little bit less than a minute into the third quarter. It was a passing touchdown by Stafford over to Williams, excuse me, for 10 yards. And it ended up being the last score for the Rams. After that, the Eagles took over. And that was just something that just proves to you that Jalen Hurts is the guy. A lot of people don't believe in him. A lot of people don't trust him. As a Giants fan, I don't like the guy because he's the Philadelphia Eagles, but I can't deny the fact that Jalen Hurts is the guy. He ends up making this team better. He doesn't have to do it himself. He doesn't have to rely on all these other players. Of course, it helps that he has them in the background, but he doesn't rely on them to the fact that, oh, I can't win without them. No, he still can win and he can still be successful with them. The Philadelphia Eagles are a major threat in the NFC. I don't care what you say. And now here's a good test. The fact that they just obviously beat the Los Angeles Rams, a team that was the first place in the NFC West last year. Now they play the NFC South winning team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one's going to be in Tampa Bay, though. And it was a very dicey performance by the defense. As much as I give the Philadelphia Eagles a lot of hype, and I went with them last week, and I was scared at first, but they ended up contributing because obviously the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know if they can do it multiple times. So I'll give the win to Tampa Bay. It's a battle of the 3-0 teams. I'll give it to Tampa Bay. I think they sneak away with the win. I would not be surprised if the Eagles win this one. Give me Tampa Bay with the upset. After that, Carolina Panthers taking on the New England Patriots. Battle of the 1 and 2 teams. Panthers got the good win, 30-0 against the Atlanta Falcons. Good divisional opponent. This one's going to be an NFC versus AFC matchup. The Patriots did everything they could to give the game to the Steelers when it came to 6 turnovers, 4 fumbles, 1 interception, 1 turnover on downs. Get the hell out of here. You can't do that. If you're a professional football team, there are high school teams that don't do that. And it's an embarrassment that they just happen to. You might as well have just given the ball over to the Pittsburgh Steelers, like Bobby Boucher in the Adam Sandler movie Waterboy, when he just gives it over to him and he goes, "Here you go." Well, that's might as well what they have done, because it was an absolute joke when it came to the performance of the New England Patriots. And that's not something that you look for when it comes to a professional team. Carolina Panthers, I still don't have really a whole lot of faith in them. I think every team does well, and I think we'll obviously go into that when it comes to the future matchups. Hint, hint, the Chicago Bears. However, I this is a tough one because it's two very, very bad teams in my opinion, and one of them is going to end up being 2-3, and the other one's going to end up being 1-4. And in my opinion, it should be a tie, and they should both end up losing. However, in this case, I'll give it to the New England Patriots. As horrible as that offense is, I think that they won't do the same mistake of turning the ball over 6 times. It's hard to kind of, counteract that performance. I think the Panthers' performance when it came to defense is kind of a short lived situation. I think Bryce Young is kind of a little bit of a fluke when it came to that, when it came to his performance. Give me the Patriots. They're also at home. Give me the Patriots in this case. After that, you have the San Francisco 49ers playing host to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars had a very good win. They really did. They were at home and they had a good 17-10 win over the Houston Texans. And I can't blame them for that. And the San Francisco 49ers, they also had a very good home win against their divisional opponent when it came to the Arizona Cardinals last week. That game ended up resulting to a performance of 16-15. And it's the second win for Mac Jones. Remember, Brock Purdy's out. You have Witten, who's out, the tight end for the San Francisco 49ers. And it's a mess when it comes to the injuries for San Francisco. I ended up picking San Francisco last week because I thought they were able to hang in there. They were also the home team in that case. They ended up going to 3-0. It's a very big 3-0 that has an asterisk when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers. And I hate to, I hate to go with them again. I think they're going to get the win because I think that the the Jacksonville Jaguars might not have enough right now in the tank for them. They're also going to be on the road in this case, playing against a very tough crowd in San Francisco. I'll give the 49ers a win in this case, and we'll move on to the next. After that is the Indianapolis Colts taking on the LA Rams. The Colts prove again that they are a decent football team. Maybe even more than decent, maybe above average, dare I say. And it involves with Daniel Jones, the ex-Giants, ex-Minnesota Vikings quarterback, where Daniel Jones proves that, hey, I can actually play football. The bum. They will go to LA to play the Rams, and at this point that it's gonna be a good game, of course, and it's just a good game for the Chargers. An opportunity to be 4-0 in this case. They ended up putting very impressive numbers yet again. They drop over 40 points against the Tennessee Titans. I know, obviously, Tennessee it's an asterisk when it comes to next to them because of their situation and how bad they are. However, Daniel Jones, 18 for 25, over 200 yards. He had a touchdown on top of it. Jonathan Taylor, 3 touchdowns. That rushing game was incredible when it came to the Colts for end up solidifying that game for them. 137 yards for them. They converted 2 for 2 on fourth down, 2 for 8 on third down. It wasn't the prettiest performance, but they obviously got the job done when they needed it the most. They didn't even have the majority when it came to the time of possession in that game for the Colts. And they still ended up getting the job done. They were very resourceful, very impactful when it came to the game. They play a harder LA Rams team, though. The Rams, they got off to a very fast start when it came to the first half against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Rams will have the opportunity to finish business. And I think they give the Colts their first loss of the season. Give me the Rams in this case. After that, you have the Chicago Bears taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, and this is going to be a very fine matchup in regards to this is a Bears team that took advantage of an absolutely horrendous Dallas Cowboys defense. And that's the thing behind this is that the Dallas Cowboys now have been exposed to having a horrible defense. And it shows with Caleb Williams. And here's the thing now behind this, and this is the main goal when it comes to the Rams. I don't care about the defense. I don't care about the special teams. I don't care about anything else with that. It's Caleb Williams entering his second season. Is he the guy in Chicago? And the point is that he had a great game. Every bad quarterback has a great game. And until you start seeing that consistency, you don't know for sure. And with that being said, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. And he plays against a very bad Raiders team. And this was being played in Las Vegas, so don't be fooled. Raiders have the home field advantage. However, this is being played in a very bad Raiders team where Geno Smith is not getting the job done. It's going to bite me in the ass, but I'm going to go with the Raiders again. I went with them in week one against the Patriots. I was right about that one. The Raiders dropped out tremendously. I'm going to go with the Raiders again because I do think I trust Pete Carroll as head coach. I think that he's going to be able to find a way to get the job done, and he's going to be able to do good in this case. Give me the Raiders in this one. I really hope I'm not wrong on this one. This is a sort of a 4 o'clock game in the middle of the afternoon on a Sunday, and I'm going to be watching this one actually pretty closely. After that, you have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Chiefs, and boy, this is going to be an interesting one. Battle of the 1 and 2 teams. Both of these teams are way better than what you see, but they played horribly in their last game. The Chiefs played the Giants on Sunday Night Football, and as well as they ended up playing, that defense strung them along. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, they're out of course, the big wide receivers and Worthy and Rice, and it's going to be a long battle for this offense for the Kansas City Chiefs. And it shows. It really does. And then they play a Baltimore Ravens team where you had Derrick Henry, who's fumbled the ball once in all 3 games so far. It's a really bad performance when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. And this is a battle where I think that the Ravens are going to be able to win because I have more faith in their offense being able to get the job done. It's going to be played in KC. I understand that. However, give me the Ravens in this case just because I do believe that they have the better opportunity. I think that KC's offense has definitely fell flat. If they rely too much on the defense, I think that Baltimore is able to, take advantage of them. I think Baltimore's defense as well is going to be able to hold tough when it comes to those situations. It's a 4 o'clock game in the middle of the Sunday afternoon. I want to give it to Baltimore, and in fact, I'm going to be able to give it to Baltimore. Give me Baltimore in this case. The night football game against the Packers and Cowboys. That's been something that's obviously been very viewed upon because Michael Parsons from the Cowboys going over to the Green Bay Packers. And I think this last week has really been something that's been very exposed for the Dallas Cowboys. The defense is atrocious. Dallas should be 0-3 right now. They obviously get beat pretty bad when it came to the Philadelphia Eagles. They got to, sort of break in the second half. Everybody fell flat when it came to the blackout when it came to week one. Week two, they took advantage of a Giants team, as I mentioned, that had a horrible defense at the time. And then week three, they get absolutely bludgeoned by a young Chicago Bears team. And the Cowboys are on a sort of downslide. They have a young coach in Schottenheimer. Jerry Jones obviously won't shut his fucking mouth. And it's just a mess in Dallas right now. And I don't see it getting better. Green Bay comes off of the loss when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. They're going to stay on the road in this one. I honestly don't care. I think Green Bay is going to be a team again. I'm going to trust. I said I didn't care in the last game against the Cleveland Browns, and I thought Green Bay was going to bludgeon them, and it was not the case. I'll go with Green Bay once more in this case. I think it's a very disappointing Sunday night football matchup. Green Bay has had Dallas's number for the last maybe about 3 or 4 years, even as far back as when J.J. McCarthy ended up coaching the Dallas Cowboys after he left the Green Bay Packers. And I just trust Green Bay a lot better. I really do. I think I think their team is just going to wake up, and they're going to end up performing very good. I think Love, even though he has a problem with the turnovers, I just think it's just not going to be enough for Dallas to be able to handle giving Green Bay in that win. After that, you're going to have the two Monday Night Football games. Unlike it was a few weeks ago, we actually do have some decently timed Monday Night Football games. It's not going to be, one game being played at almost midnight and then, you struggle to stay awake if you're on the East Coast. The first one's going to be the Jets and the Dolphins, and good lord, this is going to be a good. This is going to be a horrible matchup. It's going to be good, I guess, if you just want to see a football game like me. So, of course, naturally, I'm going to watch it. However, it's going to be the Jets versus the Dolphins. I don't know what to say about this one. The Jets have been a mess. The defense have just been absolutely atrocious since the departure of Robert Saleh. The defensive coordinator slash head coach that had been there for several years. Mike McDaniel for the Dolphins have just been absolute train wreck. They just get railroaded by the Buffalo Bills. I don't care what you say about that Thursday night football game last week. It was still a mess. Everybody knew Buffalo was going to win that game. Everybody knew that it was going to be a tough game for Miami to even compete in. The fact that they ended up only losing by 10 was impressive. So here's the difference, though. Miami is going to be playing against a bad Jets team. Miami will be on the home team. Miami is also known to be very good when they're at home. I'm gonna give Miami the win in this case. This is two 0-3 teams, both searching for their first win. It's gonna be a tickle fight. Don't get me wrong. However, I will go with Miami in this case because I do think that they'll be able to supply enough. I think their offense has made some decent strides. Obviously, it's a lot more of an improvement when they got absolutely beaten to death in week one against the Indianapolis Colts. However, I do think that Miami does have the opportunity to end up making some good strides, giving Miami in that win. After that, you have the final Monday Night Football game and the final game for Week 4. It's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Denver Broncos. This one we go back to Denver. Denver plays the home team again in this case, And after seeing Jake Browning for the offense for the Cincinnati Bengals, I have very, very, very little hope when it comes to the Bengals. Now the Broncos, don't get me wrong, they're finishing a record of 1-2. That is a major asterisk next to it, though. They have a good game against Tennessee. They lose a close one against Indianapolis, and who would have guessed the Indianapolis Colts are 3-0 right now. And then they ended up losing a very close game again last week, 23-20, against the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, Chargers 3-0. The two losses that they have played two teams that at the moment are 3-0, and they have played them down to the buzzer. That is still something that holds strong to me. It's not like they played two 3-0 teams that they absolutely got destroyed about. They still have played up to their weight limit. Plus, this one's going to be played in Detroit, in Denver. I keep saying Detroit. Excuse me. This one's going to be played in Denver, and I think the home field advantage, on top of the fact that they're going to be able to feast on Jake Browning, I'm going to give them Broncos to win on this one. They get back up to 500. They make things a lot more interesting when it comes to the AFC West. The Bengals fall, and I think that the Bengals are going to have a rough road ahead of them. You don't have, Burrow with you, and I think it's only going to be a lot more struggles moving forward. Give me Denver in this case. So that'll do it for week 4. And of course, if you guys like what you hear, feel free to subscribe and definitely drop some comments down below. Definitely helps me out a lot. Let me know you guys' favorite team and let me know what your picks are as well. I definitely do appreciate it. Also, I'm looking to be doing some different things as well as maybe doing my reaction to the separate video from what I feel about the weeks that we hear. Before we do our predictions for the following weeks, I want to do some reactions on what the games are moving forward. So let me know if you guys want to actually hear that, if you guys are actually interested in that. And yeah, like I said, overall, let me know what you guys think. My name is Doc Klugman, and I hope you guys have a good night.